And these are some of the information. Like this is my website. If you want to get to know me more. And before I proceed, uh, so I was expecting maybe young graduates and software developers and also some IT students at Juba University for sure. But I looked at the list, and majority of you are students in University of Juba or wherever here. So if you are students studying IT, can you raise your hand? Okay, that's not as many. And who are developers, engineers, and the others? Okay. Yeah, I mean, it was confusing for me to kind of come up with correct content to present and maybe what you need. But because I have seen in the list, there's a lot of students, so I kind of make presentation a bit geared toward students, yeah, and also developers. So what we are going to talk about today is about software development. Software development not at the university but also in the industry. So I know that in South Sudan, uh, the field is very still fertile. It's not really used. Like there's not a lot of activities going on with in software industry. A lot of companies that import software from outside. That would mean that our local talent it's still in a very small stage. And in 2023, I came here and I found this. I was looking before in Germany. I was looking for a place to co-work, do co-working, and this came online, Scenius, and that it was a community hub, and they have internet. You can work there. So in 2023, I came here, and I was really very excited about this place, and I even had to work here because when I come to South Sudan, I also work remotely because in Germany. So even today I just come back from work, so I can work remotely. So I was actually working here. So I was kind of inspired, and I said that since they also do the talk, at one point, if I come back again, I can do the talk. That is maybe applicable here. And I had a talk with Pony, and that's why we have this talk today. So, uh, because maybe there's a lot of groups among you, so maybe the content might be a little bit different, but you are free to ask me about any questions that maybe came with you. So some of the hobbies that I do, I like writing and reading, and I also like computer programming during my free time, not just for work. And I also do running and some fitness. So these are some of my social media details in case you want to contact me. Yeah. So maybe I come this side. So my hobbies, I actually also try to put them into some good use. And so for programming, for example, this is one of the projects I'm working on. It's called Janub Classified. And this is a market platform where sellers can connect with the buyers to sell their things for free, actually. So it's like a classified website, classified art. So it's now still in development, but I spend some of my times here. And so on my free time, I also do, as I said, reading. So, and looking in South Sudan, the current situation. So we know that there's a lot of issues going on around. And I actually kind of took time to do some research about the people of South Sudan, where they originated, how they are related with each other, all different tribes, for example. And, and I found that there's a lot of similarities than what actually divide us. And I actually, from that research, I wrote a couple of articles, and this is one of the uh, articles that I wrote, yeah, that we actually have shared ancestry and identity, actually most of the tribes in South Sudan. So, and this is actually the truth. So this is one of the things I do also as a hobby. So, and so what do I do in Germany? So, uh, as a software engineer and technical lead in the backend team, so I'm actually a backend developer. So, by the way, how many people are in year 4 for students? Year 2, 3? So how many people have programmed before? Okay, that's good enough. Okay, so I'm a backend developer, okay? So sometimes I do full stack, but mostly in the backend. So, and this company called Compute Group Medical, or CGM, is a German company. Is the leading uh, uh, software company in Germany and actually in Europe that develops software for medical uh, industry, for e-health, like hospital management systems, pharmacy systems, doctor system, and all those kind of system. And it's like very big, really, over 9,000 employees. So it's really very big. So for the team that I work in, so it's the backend teams that developed some decision support system. It's like a doctor decision support system. So it helps doctors to make some decision. For example, it can get the data of a patient that came to the doctor and then analyze the data, and maybe it can detect some rare disease, for example, or it can make some recommendation, for example. So, and this is the application that my teams developed, and I'm the backend technical lead for it. And so basically, I'm responsible for leading the development of this decision support system, and which also that means that the API architecture overseeing this, and also DevOps processes and many things that are related to make sure that it reaches the doctors. And so I also mentor junior engineers or developers, basically. So this is about my work in Germany. Uh, yeah, so this is my workstation. And I think I have some picture with my team. So this is, that's me there standing with my team. So this is a small team that I work with. And that's the headquarters, actually, of the company in Germany that I work in. Yeah. So, can you also press? So I would also like to share maybe my personal journey. So where I started and where I'm ending now, perhaps it can give some inspirations because this presentation is about first inspiring young people to actually work hard so that they can actually have opportunities not only in South Sudan but also outside the country, and also to give you some information about the current software industry, like development, for example. So I actually studied mostly in South Sudan. So my primary school started in my village, so from Rumbek East. It's called American Boni, and completed that primary school in the Rumbek Center, the Rumbek town. That was in 2009. So after my primary school, one of my teachers, like mathematics teacher, actually recommended me to go to Kenya because he says maybe it's better there compared to if I would do a high school here. And I went to Kenya with some of my friends, and I started there high school in 2009. Because I finished primary school in February 2009, and then I actually also started high school in 2009 right away. So, and then I only did first year, senior one, and then I went to Kampala for some reason, and I actually came back to South Sudan to complete my high school in Rumbek. That's in 2013. So during that time, there were opportunities going on about scholarship, and I tried my luck. I applied for a scholarship, Petronas scholarship. That was in 2000 and late 2013, and forgot about it. And then there was a problem of 2013, and but somehow afterward we were called, so we were actually uh, shortlisted and interviewed, and I was lucky to get the scholarship along with some of my friends. One of them is actually here, Bull. He works here. That's Bull. So we went to Malaysia, and I did information technology and specialized in software engineering. So next. So at the university, maybe I show a little bit about what I did there, and that also helped me along the way to kind of even be able to go and work in Germany, because it's not that really common. Um, Maybe you can. So while at the university, so I was really very excited about software development, and I would spend time coding, programming, and working on some personal projects, for example. Uh, so like this called WAC 211. I don't know if any one of you have found this. So it was actually live some years ago, but I stopped it due to some privacy concern. So this is like some websites for uploading South Sudanese traditional songs, because, in South Sudan, our traditional songs are not really digitalized. And so I was thinking that over time, we will actually lose them. So I created this website so that I can people can upload the songs and they can download them, they can play. So a lot of people were using it, but after I started work, and because it needs some work regarding the privacy and stuff like this, so I actually stopped it for a while. So, and I did some work also at student jobs and develop this is one of the things, universe lab management system. And yeah, some other things that I did for during my time at the university. Can you? So yeah, this is one of my friends. That's we were coding. Yeah. So while in the university, we are required to do internship, and we actually do 8 months internship. So meaning that 4 months for some work and then 4 months for some project. And I was lucky to, can you? I was lucky to get internship in Germany. So from Malaysia, I went to Germany to do internship. And this was very good experience for me because the company that I worked in doing internship is a very big company. It's called IVU. So they developed applications for buses, public transport, like buses, trains, and things like that. So, and so there I developed some barcode TCP request simulator. It's like for testing, it simulates, because if you go in the bus, there is some validator and you come with a ticket and you swipe the ticket there, so it would be validated somewhere in the system. So what I had to do was to develop something that will act as a simulator to send requests So this is for testing this application. And some other things like automation. So this were really real industrial work, and I was really, this is one of best experience for me during that time. And so this was me and my friends that went to do the internship, and so these were our bosses that you see in the pictures. So I'm showing you this to see like how I come to until now. So 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 during my time at the university, I also got some awards. Can you enter? And I also did some running, and we even won some awards, as you can see in the pictures here, for that. And I also published some papers. That first one there was my final year project, so it was published in a conference paper. And the other one was as a result of work I did with one of the lecturers, and they were actually happy, and then they also published the papers together. So, and so now from my experience, it's like, how do you prepare for the industry? So I know most of you are students. So the question is, how do you prepare for the industry? And we need to know what are the challenges. And most of the challenges at the universities are actually universal. Uh, and there are some customized challenges or localized challenges, maybe in South Sudan. So, and as you know, university, they teach you foundations, yeah? So it's not like they're not going to teach you how to do things in the companies, in the industry, for example. So this is one of the challenges. And no matter how big your grades are, so also the grades cannot really qualify for a successful career, yeah? So, and and now for South Sudan, particularly from what I have heard, I'm not really gone to Juba University, so you guys do not do practical, or do you do practicals? You do coding at the labs, maybe teaching assistants. So I think this is a problem in South Sudan. Even during high school, you actually supposed to do some practicals, but we do not have that luxury to actually have practicals. And so basically, at the university, they will give you tools. Even at our university, they give you tools, and it is up to you how you can use these tools to your advantage, so that you can somehow benefit and be ready for the industry. So, and I will talk about how you can be ready for the industry based on my personal experience. Yeah. So maybe things I have done, and maybe then it can, if you try to emulate them or get more advice on how you can prepare yourself. So for me, working on personal coding projects was one of the things, because you go to classroom, you get the principles, you get the foundations and stuff like that. But I also wanted to code, to program, to do something that will work. But you know that if you are a software, if you are a IT student or computer science students, if you do something and it works, so you actually feel happy, you feel excited, right? So I was working mostly on personal coding projects, like I have shown before. And also, I was also lucky to work student jobs. So as I were in university, we have they have collaboration with the industry. Some companies, they bring projects that our professors work in, and they also need students to help them on this project. So I was working in mostly on this, and I think that you all can agree to this, that if you go to YouTube now, you can get almost everything that you get at the classroom, you can also get at YouTube. So for students like you really need to use YouTube. So I know there's challenge in internet in South Sudan, but I think now it has improved because of Starlink, and I think the internet is much better. So if you have internet at the university, so you need to really use YouTube, because I was using it a lot to watch some tutorials on how to do stuff, coding stuff. You can also do some open source contribution, because now a lot of software is actually free. Frameworks, some people, they just develop things for free actually. And you can be one of them to also help them. So then you will be able to code more. So yeah, and also to close the gap, so you basically really need to practice coding. So, and I will show you some of these projects that I worked on. Again, yeah. So this is WAC, so called WAC 2111. So I don't know if you know Dinka. WAC is like song. So that's the meaning of this here. And can you press? Yeah. So this was my first project. So it was really very hard for me because I was in I think in year 2 when I was working on this, and yeah, it was very painful. Even sometime I code the whole night. Yeah, but in the end, later on, it was really it worked, and I learned a lot, like JavaScript, because this is in JavaScript and PHP. Yeah, so if you know about this, so and I learned a lot from this, and so you basically can just decide, maybe see something that maybe is missing here, and start to work on it. So I guarantee you that it will really help you to learn and solidify on what you learn, what you get in the at the university. So this is one of the projects, and so this was actually our university lab management system. So it's actually I developed it with another colleague of mine, and so it was also a big learning experience for me, because it was actually something that is used by the university, and we also were getting paid for it. So I don't know if there are these possibilities at your university to work, but if there are no, so that means you really need to work on your personal stuff, yeah, to learn. So this was for like managing lab equipments, for booking lab equipments if they are free and stuff like that, yeah. So this was also another very challenging and big project for me, which also was student work. So this was actually an application, like a prototype for Petronas, the big company. I think it was in South Sudan here, but they moved out now. And this was for procurement, digital procurement. So this was in Java. I was, I think, in year 2 also. And I learned a lot from this, to be honest, because that time I didn't even know Java. So I need to actually learn it to develop this, yeah. And then the next semester, then they were teaching Java, and I was actually in the class, and I was just there, not doing anything. So it was a good experience for me. Next. Okay. So that's basically the personal journey and some of the things that I did at the university. Makir. Huh? What's your name? Akut? Ah, so you look like a friend of mine from primary school called Makir. Yeah. Yeah, sorry. uh, so maybe if you have any question before we proceed, you could ask. Okay. So the next session, we talk about the software architecture. Yeah. So how many of you have learned software architecture? No? Few? So, but the guys in year 4, you have not learned software architecture? No? Do you learn software architecture in the Juba University? Wow, okay. It's very interesting. So what is software architecture? So software architecture is it's like the blueprint, the high level picture of how the systems is organized and behave. Yeah. So you can. So in the system you have a lot of components, a lot of parts, different parts in the system. So let's say a life management system. So you have many parts. Maybe one part for booking, another part for logging in. Yeah. And how architecture. Can you press next? Again. Again. So it is like a metaphor. If you take, for example, a building, like Nile-Pet building. So before they did this, they actually have the architecture, the blueprints of how they are going to build it, like where the windows will be, the floors arrangement, yeah, and how uh, the air system and different stuff, how they are organized. So that's what we call software architecture. And how do you come up with software architecture? It's like if you are asked to build something, yeah. So to design what you need to build, it will have to depend on that specific thing. For example, if you are building a wall, yeah, perimeter wall, so the design for a perimeter wall will have to be made, and then it's implemented. So if you are building a high-rise building, yeah, the architect will basically come up with the blueprint, yeah, to say it will look like this, and from this blueprint, they are actually going to take this to the civil engineers, for example. So so that's what we call software architecture, and it comes from the requirement. So like what you need to communicate with this system you want to build. So that means that you actually need to find a way for this system to communicate with the other components and stuff like this. Yeah. Do you guys get it? Okay. So maybe you go back. Go back. So in so one of the things that is very important is requirements, and requirements are what the user wants the system to do. So you actually have two parts of requirements. So you have the user requirements, which are things that the system will do, like maybe the system should allow users to log in, they should allow users to create accounts, for example, yeah? But you have another thing called non-functional requirements, yeah? So this is like how the system should behave, yeah? Like, it should be fast, for example. It should be secured, for example. So these are called non-functional requirements. Yeah. So these are the one I'm talking about. So you can see there what the system does is the requirements, the normal user requirements. And these are some of the examples, for example, yeah? So user can register on the system, a user can also delete the account, or if it is a banking system, the user can transfer money from their application, yeah? Next. So yeah, and the same thing, non-functional requirements. So the non-functional requirements, sometimes we call them quality attributes, yeah? Because it's like how the system behaves. So the quality of the system, it's basically represented by, next. And some of these quality attributes that you need to consider when developing a system are, these are the major ones. So like performance. So do you want your system, if you click on a button, then you wait for like 5 minutes? No? So then people will be, they will lose patience and they not use your system, yeah? So performance is very important. That means that if you are designing an architect, so you also need to think about if this architecture will encourage performance, or is it going to be there be a bottleneck, yeah, depending on how you design it. So, and also security. So the system should be secured so that not everyone can delete stuff, for example. Yeah. So people, when they log in, also they should not. They should use their password and not just logged in, uh, uh, or maybe access some information that they are not supposed to access. So that's security. And if you have a system and it become big, uh, maybe not really big, but rather it's become used by a lot of people. Like you have a system used by millions of users, right? So how can you actually make sure that the system is still being used? Yeah, if it is used by millions of users, for example, because you will host a system on a computer. So what we have to do is what we call scalability. Yeah, to be able to scale out so that many users can access your system. Yeah, so this is one of very important quality attribute. Yeah, to be able to scale. So and how they scale uh, is basically either by spanning up a lot of servers with the system so that they can and do load balancing. So I think I will not get into details. So, but the details you can you will be able to find them. Okay, and you also have availability, meaning that if I want to access the system, but it's not there, it's not online, so that means it's unavailable. So the system should be available when the user need it. So that means that the system do not go down. Yeah. So all this, including maintainability. Yeah. If you develop, if you design an architecture, you need to make sure that it is easy to maintain. Yeah. Like if you have a lot of people in the company and they make changes in the code. So if there's a problem in the code, is it very hard to change the code? Yeah. So this is maintainability, how you can maintain the code, because you can have a system for years. And if you design it incorrectly, then it will not be maintained. And even some companies, they will just drop the application and they have to start new again. So it's very important to get the architecture right. Yeah. Just like the building. If the building is designed incorrectly, yeah, so it will bring problems. So, so over the years, you know, when people develop softwares, uh, they come up with some styles, some architecture styles, yeah, that you can actually use, yeah, and uh, these patterns that are always reused, yeah, we call them architectural styles, and next, yeah. And one of them is called monolith, yeah, monolith architecture. So this monolith architecture is like if you combine all your code base in one, yeah, as one. Yeah, I think for the people that have done the coding, they would know this, yeah. So maybe I will not focus a lot on it because I would just very high level, yeah. But it's like you have the whole code for the entire system in one place. That's monolith. So everything, if you make changes, you have to make them in this one place and you deploy them as one. So in the industry, we call this a big ball of mud, yeah? Because it's like if you are designing like a banking system, yeah, in South Sudan, you can see how big it is, and all that code base in one place. So it's going to be very messy, yeah? So this is, it's simple to do for simple projects, but it's very hard for bigger projects, yeah? Next. So one of the most common uh, architectural styles that is used is what we call layered architecture. Yeah. So it's like if you have a system, let's say uh, a banking system, for example. So you will have maybe one part that is for the UI that you see, what you click, and another part is for business logic, like how the business uh, how the business logic is done. Like let's say if a user want to transfer money, what checks needs to be done. So this is called layered architecture. So you see here we have different layers. This is a presentation layer. This is the layer you see, like the UI. And then this is the business layer. which has the logic for transferring maybe money, for example, and you have persistent layer or some database layer. So this architecture style is very common. Yeah, it's mostly used in the industry. So I don't know. Is it complex, confusing? Is it okay? So yeah, we will just go very high level, and I think you will know then what to do, what information you need maybe, then you can do. Because uh, uh, yeah, I think you have not learned this because you said that it didn't teach in the university. It didn't teach you? Yes? Sorry? Same. Yeah, system design and architecture, or system design and whatever they call it, is the same thing, yeah? So system architecture and system design are more or less related. Actually, you will find system design now, okay? So, so another styles is called client-server architecture. Anybody knows this? So you actually you use it mostly when you access a website. This page that you see is what they call client side. So you are a client. And on the internet, you will use internet to actually to access the server. Yeah. So that's a client side architecture. Yeah. So you basically have like on your mobile devices as a client, and you see the website, and if you want to log in, your data will be passed to the server side. It's very simple like that, okay? This is also very common. I mean, uh, almost all websites, they use this, okay? So it's very important. Maybe you understand the foundation of this. Uh, Next. Another one I will not really touch a lot. It's a bit advanced. Advanced is what we call microservices. Yeah, microservices. So at some point you have a very big system, like a banking system, which has a lot of different things that you need to do, right? Maybe that need to be managed by different departments. So you come up with something called microservice. This is kind of like the default architecture used in the industry now, yeah? So it's like if you have, for example, uh, a market platform, yeah, like where you are selling stuff. So you will have different modules, different components. For example, you will have like for managing account, yeah, uh, like user accounts, and you also have another service, another small unit of service called microservice for inventory, for managing inventory, yeah. So so this uh, the benefit of this is that it's it's mean that if you have many like hundreds of developers, you don't expect all these developers to work on one service. Yeah, you can divide them up, and then each can like 5 or 10 can work on one service. So you see that it is easy. It make it productivity easier. Yeah, and also if you see here, if one of the services here, if it goes down, if it goes offline, the system can still work, like the account service can still work, and also the shipping service can still work, yeah? So if you are really interested in programming and also being a software developer and engineer, so you really need to know about microservices, okay? Yeah, next. So why do you think this matters? Why do you think that it is important to get the architecture right? Somebody can answer without looking at the... So basically, if you make a good architecture, then it's easier to maintain your system, yeah? So if you want to make changes, for example, if you design a building well, yeah, and maybe something problem happened with window and you want to replace the window, if you did not design it well, maybe it would be harder to replace the window, yeah? But if you design it well, it will be easier to replace the window, yeah? So the same thing. And also, it allows the team to scale. Like if you become a big company, and if you choose a good architecture, then a big company would be able to scale well. For example, if you choose microservices, right, and you have hundreds of developers, and each few of them can work on different components, yeah. So then that means that the productivity is done. But if you have like 100 developers, and then imagine you choose the big bowl of mud, like to have them in one place. So how are they going, 100 of developers going to work on one system? No, right? And yeah, and that also means reducing long-term cost. If it is easier to maintain, then it reduces the cost. Yeah. So, and the opposite of that is basically what the poor architecture is. So the system will be very fragile. So if you choose wrong architecture, then maybe it's very weak system and it can fail very easily, and it will also slow down the development and make changes more expensive. So it's very important to get the architecture right. Next. And I think you mentioned before about the system design. Yeah. So the difference between the system design and software architecture is that the software architecture focus on the big level, high level, yeah, and the system design is basically about how internally, like inside the room, how you organize different things, like the kitchens, like the bedroom and living room. How you organize this internally is what we call the software design, okay? But mostly you can use them interchangeably, okay? So the high level one, architecture. The detailed design is the system design, okay? So it's about organizing the modules, the components. So a module is like a part of a system, yeah? So we call it a module, a part of a system. And classes, anybody knows about object-oriented programming? Okay, a few of you. So if you learn object-oriented programming, you learn about the modules, you learn about the classes, yeah? So how you organize classes is basically, yeah, the software design. So the software design is it's generally easier and cheaper to change. So you can easily change how the organization of internal module are. Okay. Any question regarding the difference between system software design and architecture? Okay. Next. So this is example of the design. Yeah. So you have, I think this is called registration system. Yeah. And how do you organize different parts of this system? It's what we call the system design or software design. And you see here, for example, these are what we call classes. Yeah. So you have a class for students that represent a student. Okay. That's what we call a class. And you have another class that represent a course offering, for example. So how they relate with each other, it's basically what you see here. Yeah. So like students can register, for example, a student can do stuff. Okay. So is it confusing? Are you learning something? Okay, good. So this is really very important in software industry, when if you are a software developer or engineer, because before you actually start to code, if you are asked to develop something, the first thing you need to do is to come up with the architecture, and then you conceptualize by coming up with the design. Yeah. So you have to think about how would the cost registration system, how will it look like, or how would it behave? So you have to come up with some designs, yeah, before you actually write actual code. So this is very important, because if you design it right, then you will be able to actually write a good code later, yeah. But if you design it wrong, that's like a wrong design, and it's going to affect you over the long run. Okay. So there's a lot of resources. So it's a bit uh, weird that from the that you didn't really learn much about this. If you are, because I think you have to learn this in year 2 or even year 1, I think. Okay. So if you have not learned this, I think you really have to learn it on YouTube or something like that. Next. So I think why it matters, the design is almost the same thing like why the architecture matters. So if you basically have a good design, so you make the code easier to read, yeah? It's very, if you develop a lot of codes, and we have to imagine like you are a new developer, and then you are given a system code, and you need to understand the code. So you have to read the code. So if the code is not designed well, you are not able to read the code well. You are not able to understand it, yeah? So it is very important, if you design it right, it will be easier to understand the code, yeah? So this is very important in the industry. And it also make it easier the team to add new changes, yeah, or to add new features without uh, introducing problems or bugs into the old code, yeah. And also managing errors. It also simplify testing, yeah, so that you can test it better if you design it well. And if you do it poorly, so then you can be, if the problem happened in a software, yeah, you need to find out what the problems. That would mean you need to read the code, yeah, to actually understand it. And if you do not design it well, it's very hard to know, yeah, where the problem is in the system. So, and also, uh, if you didn't design it well, you will always be making changes, which is all bad. Okay. So software design is very important. So in the industry, it's not like everyone that designs and code. Some people can design it. We have architects that can design stuff, and then the programmers can code. They can be given the design, and then they can actually code. Like the civil engineers, the architects, they design a building, and then they give it to civil engineers to actually execute it. So that's how it works. But if you are a software engineer, so you should be able to do all of them, yeah? And especially if you work for a small company, they do not have a luxury of having different roles, yeah? So you have to do all of them. Okay, maybe before we go to this, any questions and maybe something you need to know before we go to ahead? No? Okay. So if it is very important to design a system right, so the question is, how do we actually design it right? Are there some kind of best practices that are used? Because it's not like every day you look at the problems and you have to think about how you can solve this problem. Yeah, maybe there are some people that have solved these problems and they know how to solve these problems. Yeah, so and these are what we call the core principles. So over the time, because of experience, people come up with ways to the best practices to use when designing application. Yeah, and the general principles. Uh, So we have a principle called KISS, yeah? Keep it simple and stupid, yeah? So this means that if you are coding or writing code or designing it, if you want to design a system, you should not over-engineer it, yeah? You should not complicate it, yeah, to maybe show that, oh, you're very smart, yeah? So you design that way, no. So you have to make it as simple as possible, as long as it will solve the problem, yeah? So that's making it, they call it keep it simple or keep it stupid, okay? So that's one of the principles you have to know in mind if you are designing stuff. And another thing is if you are designing an application, so you need to not repeat yourself. So meaning that if one component does something, and this the same thing can be done in another part of the system, you should not rewrite it there. So you should find a way to reuse this thing you do here in another place. Yeah, you get it? So do not repeat yourself. So these are the core things that you keep in mind when you are designing stuff. Yeah, that have been proven to work well. Another thing is like you're not going to need it. Yeah. So if you are doing something and you think you are trying to read people's mind, maybe it will be needed later, and then you just develop it, but maybe it will not be needed later. Yeah. So you only do what you need to do now. And very important principles, it's the separation of concerns. So meaning if things are done in certain way, like separate things are done separately, yeah? So you do not combine, for example, user login module, yeah, with, let's say, bank account transfer, like money transfer, for example. So that these are separate things. So you need to separate the consent, basically. So, and loose coupling. So yeah, I think this is a bit, you will be able to understand this when you actually really work on the actual code, yeah? So it's like, you should not make a part of the system tightly coupled, yeah? So that, because if you make them like very dependent on each other, if you make changes in one, maybe it will affect the changes in another. Another principles we have, we call it solid principles, yeah? These are almost related, yeah? So just know that there are solid principles, yeah? And the most important principle in solid principle is this one here, the single responsibility principle, yeah? This means that if you divide the system into parts, one part of the system should only do one thing, yeah? So one part of the system should only do one thing. So you should not make one part of the system do two things, yeah? For example, if you have a part that do the user login, yeah, that part should not also do the user deletion, for example. Okay? Yeah, I think you can continue. So maybe before that, any question? Are you learning anything? Huh? Yeah? Design. Hmm? That's actually a very good question. Are you a student or a developer? Huh? You, junior developer. Okay. Yeah. So there are software design patterns. Yeah. They are different from architecture design patterns. So I did not show them here because I didn't want to go into details. Yeah. But for designing, so what I just shown you here are principles. Yeah. That you should follow. But there are also design patterns. Yeah. So that I did not touch. Yeah. So these software design patterns, for example, like if you want to develop a certain system, like a pattern for creating objects, for example, or a pattern for server, for having like an application that also needs uh, a server, for example, yeah, or an different application that might use different scenarios, yeah. So some of this is like what we call factory, yeah, factory pattern. So this is another pattern that you can use. Another pattern maybe that is related to this, that you can use as a design pattern, is something we call MVP. So mobile view presentation, yeah? So it's like, so the question he's asking is like, the design, the architecture pattern that I shown before is like for the high level one. But what are the patterns for designing the internal stuff, yeah? The detail, the internal stuff. That's the question he's asking, okay? And I didn't show here because it would be a bit too much. Yeah, but I will touch one of it because of this that I'm showing here. Yeah, so I wanted to talk about REST API and backend. So how many of you know backend? What backend means? What does backend means? What does it mean? Okay, thank you. So the backend, he says, is where the logic is. So as I said before, if you have on a website and you want to log in, then the request for login information, which has password and username, will be sent to the backend. And the backend, what logic means is that the backend will check if the user is using the correct username and using the correct password. Okay, that's the logic. So it will be in the backend. Okay, and how does the front end communicate with the back end? So that set of protocols that is used is what we call REST. Yeah. So REST in full is representational state transfer. So it transfers the state from the front end, which state is like login state, which contain data. Yeah. So it's sent to the back end. So this protocol is what they call REST. It's basically an API. Yeah, an API is application programming interface. So it's a way of computers to communicate with each other. Yeah, like how do I communicate with you? So I talk in a language you understand. So I'm talking English. So I could talk another language. Yeah. So for computers to communicate with each other, so the REST API is the main one of the most popular ways to communicate. Yeah, for them to communicate, and and so if I come back to your question, if you have to design a system that also need a backend application, sorry, a backend logic, how do you design it in a good way that make it easier to make changes and to maintain and to read and understandable? So one of the pattern, as I said before, is called MCV, yeah? And one part of that is that you will have a part for the logic. So meaning that it says that one part for the logic should be separate from the part for the view. Yeah. So what will receive the request, for example. Yeah. And the part for the data where you store the data should also be separated. Okay. So this would be one of the pattern. So it's not the same pattern as architecture, but it's a pattern for organizing stuff. But there's a lot of patterns. So, and because we have not learned about much about it, so I will not touch all of it. But you can learn about the design patterns that I use. Okay. So this is about REST API and backend. So do we have any developers that want to be backend engineers? Who wants to be backend engineer? So you are already a backend engineer, right? Still learning. And who wants to be backend engineer? Only two. Who wants to be front-end engineer? And all of you, you don't want to be anything. Why are you here? Huh? So what's the difference between back-end and front-end? Not you. You? Okay. And the back-end is where the logic is. Yeah? So the front-end, basically, for people who are interested, is what the user see, the beautiful side that the user see, like the buttons where you click on, yeah? That's the front end. So some people like to do front end designing, yeah? Because if you want to be a front end developer, you actually need to have some kind of sense of design to know if it look nice. Because if the system doesn't look nice, then people are not going to like it, yeah? That's the front end. And the back end is basically the logic. It can be messy, but you have to make it less messy because of the things that I was showing before, yeah, to be able to change it well and stuff. But nobody sees the back end, Okay, it's where the logic is. Okay. So application, and maybe we think through, yeah, how we can. Okay, somehow is still coming. Okay. Okay, so this part is about looking at some scenarios, some system scenarios, yeah? And maybe we can try to think about, maybe apply what you have learned, if you have learned anything, what you have learned to see how you can go about it. Huh? So let's take a scenario one where you need to design a course registration system, yeah? Let's say in Juba University, you have a system for registering the courses. So if you want to register for this course, you register. So, and what are the requirements? So remember the requirements. There will be thousands of students, yeah, that will use these systems. And each course, yeah, each course, let's say it's only 100 students can take this course at one semester. Okay, so that means that the seats are limited. And then, uh, yeah, uh, that means that a lot of users need to be able to access it, yeah, in concurrently. And it is important that the data for registration is consistent, yeah. So maybe before we come here, what are the functional requirements? What are the user requirements for this? Anybody else? You? Yeah, very good. Yeah. So the functional requirements, one of them is the user should be able to register. It's very simple. The course, yeah, should be able to register the course. Can somebody think again what is maybe it could be a functional requirement if you are a system designer and you are given this? Yes? Yes. So that means that you need to ask the person responsible. Does student does it that does should the student pay for the course? Yeah. And if they say the student should pay for the course, that means then the student should be able to make sure that they pay for the course, right? But if the system owner says that it's free, then it's not part of the system requirement. Okay. So this is very one good lesson. So if you have requirements, you get them. You need to be able to ask the system owner. Yeah, you need to think like if you are in the system, how would it work like? Yeah, and any other requirements from this side? Yes, the course description. So that means that if admins register a course, yeah, so they need to put the course name, they need to put course description and stuff like that. Okay, so what are maybe non-functional requirements? Maybe any of them, any one non-functional requirement from here, yes? Right, so very good. So just by saying that thousands of students, right, that means you need to make an architecture that make it faster, right? Any other non-functional requirements? Not you, another person from here? Yes? Should be reliable, yeah? Should be reliable. That means if it does something, it actually does it. If the user register the cost, it means that the registration should be successful. It will be unreliable if you register now and then in the end it doesn't work. Yeah. So that somebody can also be unreliable if they say they will do something and then they are not doing it. Yeah. So you can see that you will get a few requirements, yeah, but you actually need to ask and think about possible other requirements, especially the non-functional requirements. You need to come up with them, the developer. Okay. So now, so some of the questions you will have to ask yourself is like, which are the challenges? So, how can multiple user, if they are registering at the same time, yeah? So remember that there is limited seats. So you have a lot of students that are registering at the same time, yeah? So that's a problem, yeah? Because if you don't handle it well, more than 100 students can register, right? So how do you handle it? Okay? So you have to ask yourself. And how can we handle that? Anybody with the answer? How can we handle that? Yes? Okay. So he's saying that they should allow only certain number of concurrent users. Yeah. So if let's say 90 users are registered, are concurrently connected, then you don't allow another connection. That's what you say, right? So this could be one of the solutions. Yeah. Any other solutions? So in software engineering, any solution can work, right? It's like, what is the most efficient solution? Okay, thank you. So that could be one of the ways you can solve this, and it actually will work, yeah? Because you can see if you have like 100 connections, then you stop any connection, and then you process the first 100, okay? So, and then you have database consistency, yeah? So that the data is consistent. So if also you have multiple connections and then they are updating the database, maybe the data is not consistent anymore because this connection here maybe doesn't know the other data that is added and stuff like this. And you also can maybe, yeah, how you can prevent the duplicate registration, yeah, and handle any failure that might happen. Can you press next? Next, yeah. Yeah. So one of the ways you can handle that is that you can actually have f- transactions. Yeah. So you can have a transaction. If, for example, for failures, how you can handle any failure. If let's say you are doing multiple things in one session, so you can have a transaction that if it has not passed, then everything is rolled back. Yeah, everything is rolled back, and uh, and And so you can come up with the ways to impose the capacity rules, yeah? You can impose the capacity rule. You can also impose it at the database level or an application level to make sure that only specific users are able to yeah, to, number of users are able to log it, to register the cost, yeah? And you have to have handle the concurrency safely, yeah? So there are ways to handle the concurrency like locking, yeah? Locking the processes and stuff like that. So, and that means that this is what we call activity diagram. This is a part of design, yeah? So it's like you need to now think about what the first thing you need to do. If you have a request, you need to check the availability. If it is available, you need to also check uh, the seat, yeah? Or, or then you have to create the enrollment in the system, and then this transaction is basically done. So this is just a scenario, okay? But if there are no seat available, then it ends. You know? So this is a conceptual way to make activity diagram how the system will will look like. Yeah. Next. Maybe I will be faster because yes. Yeah. come, first serve. Yeah. So it's the same scenario that our brother there actually provide the answer. Yeah. So you can basically do on first come first serve basis. Yeah. That means that you need to time the request. So when you receive the request, you know which request that you receive at first, right? At the same time. Yeah, so it's very challenging, yeah. But yes, so you need to handle the concurrency safely, yeah. And so if this is really what is uh, required, and you click at the same time, so for sure, uh, you need to timestamp it. And in a timestamp, even with like minus nanoseconds, for example, yeah, you will still be able to distinguish which one was the first to reach the server, yeah? Because if you are accessing servers, you will not be in one place, right? In different places. And to reach the backend, actually, there is latency. There is some kind of latency. So it's not really very real time. So that means some will be able to reach faster and stuff like this, yeah. So, yeah, you have to be able to use timestamps to, yeah, to distinguish who is the first to make a request. Okay? Mm. Like what? DDoS attack. Yeah, I mean, if you, so for sure, if you have a system, yeah, you also need, one of the quality attribute is availability, I mentioned before, meaning that the system should be able to available. So you as a system owner or a developer, you know what is the expected number of requests that you can receive in the system, yeah? And so because of availability, you also need to protect against those attacks. So, and this means that if the system is overwhelmed and you think that this is actually not uh, the number of requests that you expect, you need to reject, yeah? You need to reject them. You need to protect them against those attacks, especially if they are coming from the same IP address, yeah? So we have ways to protect them, yeah? So it depends on you. If you know that in 1 second you can actually, there's a system that can receive millions of requests in a minute. But in another system, you will think, this is not true. This is not the case because maybe the users are few, yeah? Yeah. So another scenario is about authentication and authorization, yeah? So the requirement is that user should be able to log in, user should be able to register, and also they should have roles, admins or instructor, for example, and high data consistency. So some of the challenges we have here is like, how are you going to store the password? Yeah, if the user logged in. That means the system should know the password, right? And the user will provide the password during the login. So how are you going to store the password? How are you going to store the password? Any other person? Yes? It's hashed, yeah? Yeah, right, yeah. He said the password need to be hashed. You can also encrypt it if you want, right? But encrypting it, that would mean you have to decrypt it again. So it's performance bottleneck, right? You see, these are both solutions. So you can encrypt it, meaning that you encrypt it with a key, but if you want to know the real value, you need to decrypt it in all the requests. So that means that there's a lot of time you take to do this. But if you hatch it, hatching means that you you produce the hash of the string for the password and you store it. So if the user logged in, then you hash again that password and you compare it with the hash that you store. So then if the hashes are the same because you are using the same algorithm, then you know the password is the same. So that's how the checking for the password is look like. But you can also just store it in the plain text, right? You can just store it without hashing it. And if you have the password, when they want to log in, then you compare it with the password you stored. That will also work, right? Do interviews, yeah, when we do employments. So I also handle interview to hire new people. And I know what do employers, what do they want? If you are students, you just graduated, yeah, like you. And so normally, most of the things, most of the things can be learned. So, and because most of the things can be learned, even if you don't know, it is very important that you are willing to learn, If you are willing to learn, you can learn about the most important things. And a lot of employers, they care about this. So you should be willing to learn. And for sure, you should have basic competency, like in programming and other in languages, design, for example. So software design, maybe you can learn it later on. So if you just want to do coding, and reliability, so that you're able to do something if you are asked to do, and communication is very important because if you are given requirements, so you need to be able to understand them. You need to be able to ask questions, ask questions, because if you ask correct questions, then you even get more information. Because most of the time, the people that want the system, they do not actually know what they want, they don't really know. So you need to be able to ask properly. Next. Yeah, and if you are looking for a job, you have like good skills and you want to get a job somewhere. So these are some of the of the places you can get, like LinkedIn, Indeed, Glassdoor. You can actually get job there. So this job that I mean now, I got it actually from one of them. It's called Zinc. It's from Germany. So I was working with a different company, and then I had an account there. If you have an account there, you can do this, you can do this, right? And then some employer, they just write to me, we look at your profile and we are really, we admire what you have done there. Can you work for us? Can we have a call? And they actually contact me there, and then I had a call with them. So you see, so if you want job maybe outside, you can make your profile in one of these. Next. Yeah, I think that's the end of the presentation. If you have any question, yeah. Okay, we only have 3 questions, because of time.
Okay, thank you for the opportunity. My question is, have you ever worked on complicated system or a platform such as financial systems or mobile money system? If you did, which platform did you use? Like SP.NET Core, Laravel, or Django? Secondly, which software structure did you use? Like MVC or something like this. MVC means Model View Controller. This will allow you to apply the clean code structure like you mentioned before, like solid. Okay. How did you handle authentication or authorization like you mentioned before? Okay. In SP.NET Core as platform, you can handle, there's a module called identity or GWT that will allow you to handle authorization and authentication. Okay? And a complicated system like integrated with other systems through API, RESTable API. Okay, I need the platform. And also system like expose USSD code API, because right now in real application, you need to develop API for USSD codes that can interact with mobile phones. Like say now most telecom here, they use USSD codes, right, to subscribe. Yeah, I need those informations, what kind of project and so on. Thank you.
Okay, yeah. So very valid questions. Maybe I answer first, then so that I don't forget. Yeah, I answer first, then you can go. Yeah. Okay. Well, I have worked on complicated system, but not financial system. But they are more or less all the same. Yeah. So so you are actually asking, architectural questions. Yeah. So if you want to do this system, what's the best way you can develop it? Yeah. So I can tell you that in terms of framework that you could use, I think you could use almost anything. Yeah. But it always depends on, you need to ask, for example, where are you going to host the system? Yeah. Who is going to use it? Yeah. Is there like some requirement by the company that maybe they are tied to Microsoft, for example. Then maybe you use .NET because this is all the same platform, for example. So financial system, you can even use Python, for example, yeah, at the back end. And then you can also use React at the front end, yeah. This is if you want to make it as a web application. Do you want to make it as a desktop, for example? Then you can use maybe even .NET, for example, or you can use Java, for example. Java is widely used in the industry as for enterprise application, for example, financial system, yeah? So you could also use Java. So how are you going to secure it? So as I said before, token-based authentication is mostly used for securing your application, even when they communicate with different systems via API, right? Because when you send a request to the API, when you have the token and you put this token in the request, and then they actually know how to validate the token, yeah? So that's how you will go about it, yeah. So, but for any framework, really, you could use anything. So it will depend on your company, what developers you have, what skills do they have? Do they know Java? Do they know Python? If they know Java, are you going to decide to say that you're going to develop in Python? No. So then you will use Java because it's what they know, right? Otherwise, then you need to hire new people. So all these are like the questions you need to ask to actually determine what kind of framework or language you need to use. So, okay, some people will use Python maybe, right? Because it's easier to get Python developers. Maybe others will use maybe .NET, for example, yeah? Maybe because they're actually related with maybe Microsoft product that you want to use. Or you want it to be very fast, for example. Maybe you use C or you use C Sharp, for example. So it all depends on the scenario, yeah. But for financial system, for big industries, normally they would use Java or maybe yeah, C Sharp, for example. Yeah. But now a lot of people are also using Python, even for big application. Did I answer your question? Yeah.
I'm here. Okay, Engineer Joe, this is a good session. So my question is about project management. Could you talk a little bit about it in relation to the software development? You know, these technical skills are all good, the coding, all that. But if you don't have project management, how do we balance that to have like successful projects? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So maybe you can ask also. Yeah. Uh, so so this question maybe one more from you said this. I think you have asked before. Huh? Okay.
I give you.
Yeah. This one. So if you have other questions, yeah, I showed you before there my contacts. Yeah. You can also contact me. You can ask me. Okay.
Okay, thank you for the opportunity. I'm neither a developer or even taking the course, but I'm just somebody who's driven here by the curiosity to learn more. So I came here just to ask a simple question to see your view of the techno know-how of why many fintech uh, companies are flourishing in other countries, but such things like Momo and Grusha failed in South Sudan. Why is it that? Is it because people are not knowing how to deal with it technically, or just about the government regulation about it? That's what I want to know.
Okay. Okay, so these two questions actually are not very related to software development, but at least about project management. Yeah, project management is very important. Yeah, mostly in the industry. Yeah, when you are working, there will be project managers. Yeah, it's not necessarily the developer that will do the project management, right? Somebody will manage it. They have a project managers. It's a job title. Yeah, and they will help developers to manage it. And normally you would have like maybe a Scrum team. Yeah, that based on the project how the project is organized, then you actually kind of you have some methodologies for how you can develop the software efficiently. Yeah, but as somebody maybe that you want to do all the things, maybe you have a small company you are running and you are the software developer, so you need to manage it. What is very important related to project management that developers get asked is like if you are given requirements, they will ask you how long can you take to develop this, yeah? And for you to answer this question, you need to be able to estimate well, yeah? So you need to be able to know how long you'll be able to develop a system or a part of a system. That's called estimation, and this is an important part for developers to do. Yeah, even as we do this, so you basically need to have a ticket. Yeah, and there was a requirement you need to know, and this comes with experience. Yeah, so you will know how long you take to develop this. You will know how complicated this technology you are using is. Yeah, for example, if you are developing something in a language you have never used, you need to learn. So it will be, yeah. So estimation for developers is very important. It's a very important skill to be able to estimate how long you can take. And this estimation is actually what project managers will use to actually plan the project, yeah? So regarding your question, uh, I'm not sure if it is a technical issue. I don't really know what's the problem with Momo. For me, I also try to use Momo even when I'm outside because I have a bank account in South Sudan and I actually use it, but then you cannot actually get out the money. So I don't really know whether it is a financial issue. You could even easily say it's probably related with financial crisis because there are no cash, for example, yeah? I'm not sure, I don't think it is about the technology, yeah? Because it's like if you send, yeah, it is sent, the Momo, but you are not able to get out the cash. So I think in general, if I have to answer you in general, maybe the technology is still lacking because mostly we don't have the infrastructure. We don't have really good infrastructure, yeah? Like internet, even electricity is not that available to everyone, for example. We do not really have servers, or good digital infrastructure that works. So in general, you could say that it's challenging to do these kind of things in South Sudan than in other countries like Kenya, which have good infrastructure, yeah? But I think for Momo case, I don't think it is necessarily the technology part, but maybe because of economical crisis that the country is in, maybe. So I think we are done. Thank you for this. I think we don't really have time. Sorry, we cannot take more questions, but you can write to me if you have more questions. I also will be working here for like I don't know until maybe January, so we still have more time. So if maybe in your school and or something you really need some specific talk, then you can. It could be possible that I will be able to do before I go. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you for your
Actually,
attendance.
just on that point, I would still want to know if you would be willing to come back next week. I think because so many people had interest in the specific topic, so if you can see if you're available another day next week,
Maybe after next week
after next week.
would be so that I have more time to prepare, and also because I'm very busy also with work.
Yes.
So it's like my holiday is finished. So yeah, maybe after next week. But it depends on what topics do you guys want to talk about next. Maybe you will find a way to get their feedback online
Still on the back end.
on the back end. Okay. Connect with the back end. They communicate with API. So yeah, yeah. So I'm not sure I actually get exactly what you mean, but you have some. Do you have logic on the front end that also? Yes. Yeah. 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 Mm. Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, I think this is quite okay. Normally, you do like this, where you have also, so you have the logic in the back end. That's good, yeah. of course, for you to call the backend, you need to kind of have whatever handler, whatever handling the request there. In the front end here, you will actually need to apply some kind of design pattern, yeah, where you can maybe the real buttons should be here, on the real page should be here, and maybe a bit of logic, which also called the backend, can be in some part, which I think you did. And then when you get that, then it's persisted to the UI. This is a normal way, for example, how React works, for example. Yeah. So this is okay. As long you are not doing the same thing you are doing you do something in the back end, then you do another logic in the front end, you don't need. But if you just want to render the page or the content, this is okay.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I think we can give him a round of applause for the wonderful session.